This week on Motoring 90.
You have to understand this is a 24-hour event. If you enter with 3 or 4 drivers, you usually end up with 6 or 8 hours in the car throughout the event. So if you come here to the Daytona 24-hour event, you'll end up probably with about a quarter of racing season underneath your belt before you even get to your first kart race.
This would take probably 6-7 months. It's a lot of work.
Motoring 90 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Is it me? My bank manager says no. And you know what? I think he's probably right. But boy, am I having fun. And I'm having fun in a Ferrari 328. 240 horsepower, the price tag about $140,000. We picked this one up from Caliber Motors in Toronto, and he tells me he sold 32 of these cars last year in Toronto alone. The way I figure it, there are a lot of people in Toronto who are on macaroni and cheese diets. Anyway, let's get things started this week by joining Steve Grant in Daytona, Florida. And he covered a race that is ideal for insomniacs.
The pre-race atmosphere for the Sunbank 24 at Daytona Speedway is a little different than most races. Things tend to move a little slower. Maybe it's just a case of not wanting to peak too early. This twice-around-the-clock affair is the first event on the IMSA circuit, and no one will work harder than the support teams. For the men and women working in the pits, it could mean up to 36 hours of work with little or no sleep at all.
They're in good physical condition. We've had a program laid out with diets and an exercise program, and they've stuck to it religiously all the way through, and these guys are in good shape. They're ready to perform for 24 hours. They have a much tougher schedule than the drivers, in that the drivers can go and get some sleep in the middle of the night. These guys have to be here on call, alert, all 24 hours. If there's any sort of a problem, they have to respond, and respond well, and respond properly.
In this race, people tend to remember manufacturers rather than individuals. This year, Jaguar brought 2 V12s, hoping to avenge last year's loss to Porsche. The powerful Nissan teams hope to have a say in the outcome as well. For the drivers, the 24-hour test is a great way to get back into the swing of things real fast. The pace in a 24-hour race is absolutely grueling. We just passed the 114 lap mark, and already some of these crews are exhausted just from the heat alone. And we aren't even close to being a third of the way into this race. When the Sunbank 24 here at Daytona Speedway is over, the winner will have traveled 2,800 miles and raced around the clock twice. Okay, Davey, you've done 2 shifts now in the car. You started the race, you did another shift. Tell me what it's like out there.
It's not too bad at all. There's quite a bit of traffic, but you know, this time of night, everybody starts getting in a really nice flow, a nice rhythm, and you know, sometimes you got to sacrifice a lap time, maybe 4 or 5 seconds, 10 seconds slower a lap, but you got to try and preserve the car, not damage it, and take that, be patient with traffic. You'll make it back up later on the race.
What do you do in preparation for the next time you get back in the car?
Well, I dry my overalls, try and cool myself down, because your heart rate is quite high. We're out in the car, and you heat up, you sweat a lot. Just try and build up fluids, maybe get a bit of carbohydrates back into me, and just get freshened up, get ready to go. Next time in the car, it'll be a double stint, so I can be in up to 3 hours, and then after that, the following 2 co-drivers will be in each for a double stint, so I'll be able to get maybe 3 hours sleep.
Consistency and teamwork appeared to be paying off for the Jag teams. As the sun came up, incredibly, both British entries were on the same lap and running 1-2.
If there is a wall, it tends to be just before dawn. The night seems very long. There's something like 13 hours of darkness here. And usually 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning is the worst time. But the thing with the team is not everybody hits the wall at the same time. It's great to see dawn. That's the best way to put it. You know, when you see the clouds start to lighten up, it lifts everybody's spirits. And after that, the tough time is really from 12 noon onwards, because the heat's come up. You've been up for something like 30 hours, maybe more, 36 hours, and that's the toughest time. It really is.
I guess really the thing we look forward to is Sunday night. Back at the hotel, 6 o'clock, and looking at the back of your eyelids.
The cars have been on the track now for 21 hours. Now these next 3 hours, it's crunch time. The sun is out, it's about 85 degrees. Now some of us have been lucky enough to get back to the hotel for a shower and a change of clothing. As for the crews, they have to do the best they can.
The worst part is about 6 o'clock in the morning when the sun first starts coming up, because at that time you realize that you're just about to make it through the night, but you still have so many hours left to go. So you're really tired, you want to get it over with. We all look pretty bad. We all stay up. Everybody stays up, drivers included. And everybody's afraid that if they go to sleep, they'll miss something exciting. So we look pretty ragged by the end of the 24.
And just in case it gets too much to take, most teams have a chiropractor ready to spring into action.
What does a chiropractor do during a 24-hour race? What kind of things have you been doing all night?
What we've been doing is adjusting them. Anytime they're stressed, we go in there and adjust the bones that are causing a pinched nerve, so they can get back in the car, drive, and also get the car on the track.
How's your back taking all this?
I need to be adjusted.
Back on the track, Team Jaguar was getting ready to take the checkered flag. After 24 hours, the Jags finished 1-2. The nearest rival, a Porsche, 6 laps down. To put this all into perspective, it usually takes about 5 days to travel from Vancouver to Toronto. These cars cover the same distance in 1 day.
Thank you.
The forward visibility is great. You can see what's immediately in front of you. Because you sit so high up, you get a very commanding view of the road. All in all, this is a very nice van to drive.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
As you can see, this week on Test Drive, we're looking at the 1990 GMC Safari all-wheel drive minivan. Now, just a couple of days after picking this van up, we ran into one of winter's worst storms, and the benefits of the all-wheel drive system became very apparent very quickly.
During the test, we took full opportunity to put the all-wheel drive system through its paces. Even in some pretty heavy going, the system worked to perfection and demonstrated the true advantages of this type of setup. As well as providing superior traction in slippery conditions, the all-wheel drive system improves vehicle stability under all conditions. Add to this a very effective four-wheel anti-lock brake system, and you have a vehicle with a decided advantage over others in this class. The 4.3-litre Vortec V6 engine produces 150 horsepower at 4,000 RPM, and as you can see, it is really shoehorned in under the hood. Despite this, though, the essential levels can be checked and topped up with ease. The standard transmission is a 4-speed automatic. This combines the advantages of an automatic plus the overdrive for fuel economy. I found the steering a little vague on the highway. This and the fact that the Safari is susceptible to side winds can make it a bit of a handful at higher speeds. The dash is of the digital variety. Its configuration reminded me of why I dislike this design so much. The information conveyed is limited and picking up the pertinent stuff difficult when compared to the vastly superior analog design. The remainder of the driving controls are logically placed and easy to operate. The auxiliary rear heater ensures ample comfort for the rear passengers.
My pet peeve this week is to do with the intrusion of the wheel well into the driver's foot space. With your foot here, it tends to get tangled up underneath the brake pedal, and up here it becomes uncomfortable on a long trip. The other thing I noticed with this vehicle was a fair amount of drivetrain vibration, which I think can be attributed to the all-wheel drive system. However, given the benefits, I for one could live with it. Now to the scoreboard and see how I rated the rest of the 1990 GMC Safari all-wheel drive.
As with a vehicle of this type, the Safari's handling characteristics are limited, partly because of its S10-based chassis and partly because of its high centre of gravity. That said, though, I was pleasantly surprised by the overall ride quality and the manner in which the van behaved during our tests. GM is to be commended for putting a four-wheel anti-lock disc brake system on the Safari. During testing, they provided quick, confident stops and complemented the all-wheel drive system very nicely. Because of the axle ratio and the rather lethargic performance of the 4.3-litre V6 engine, the 100k sprint times were leisurely to say the least. However, there is enough torque available to pull the skin off a rice pudding in one piece, something very important when towing a heavy trailer. Despite the close proximity of the engine to the driver, the interior noise level is quiet, indicating a high level of insulation. There was also little or no wind noise evident, even at highway speeds. As you might expect, a heavy vehicle with four-wheel drive equates to a heavy fuel consumption. The best we averaged was a thirsty 14.1 litres per 100 kilometres, or 20 miles per gallon. Although not the best minivan tested, the 1990 Safari all-wheel drive should prove more than a little appealing to those with a trailer to pull.
Yeah, it's a 328 Ferrari, 240 horsepower, 4 on the floor. Not bad, eh? Pardon? Do I own it? No. No. You know, this is just one of the benefits of driving a Ferrari. But let me tell you something. If you like this car, wait till you see what's upcoming next on Motoring 90, because it's now time to join our resident mechanic, Bill Gardner. Now, every week he's telling us how to look after your car, especially the engine. This week, he's telling you how to maintain your wheels.
If you're taking your car to a shop to be serviced, they're likely using a wrench like this, an air impact tool. And the tendency with these tools is to over-tighten the wheel nuts. There's a saying in the fastener industry that an over-torqued fastener is already half broken, and that's very true. So it's important that the wheels are tightened properly. Now, if they've been over-tightened and you go to install your spare tire, you may find it much easier to have one of these on board, a four-way wheel wrench. Now, a unit like this costs you about $15, but you can take it with you from one car to the next. There's 4 sizes that'll fit any vehicle. The standard issue wheel wrench will usually do the trick if you support it properly with your other hand and use a gentle lifting action. Go around the wheel. Now, the action of these wrenches is pretty good, but there's a bit of a problem in that if the wheel studs are over tightened, as you lift on this, you'll tend to not only twist the wheel nut loose, but you're also lifting on the stud, and sometimes that can break or damage the wheel studs. So it's a good idea to back this wrench up with your other palm, and it'll work much better, or consider buying a 4-way wrench. Now, when you're finished, it's a good idea to properly torque that wheel. There's specifications for all wheels. This particular one would be 90 foot-pounds. And we're going to use a click-type torque wrench to tighten those studs down. When we reach 90 foot-pounds, the wrench will click and unlock slightly. We'll know that we've reached the specified torque. Now, many of today's vehicles have light alloy wheels like this one. They're very decorative and they're light. They reduce the unsprung weight of the vehicle, but they require a little bit different service procedures. And it's important that when these wheels are removed, that you address this area here, the pilot area that locates the wheel on the hub. Now, periodically, these wheels should be sanded in this area lightly with a piece of fine sandpaper to remove any scale or rust in this area. This vehicle had quite a bit. Now, a couple of months ago, it was in for new tires, and this wasn't done. When we went to remove this wheel just now, it was really frozen on there. So sometime within the first year of ownership of that vehicle, if it has aluminum wheels, make sure that you lubricate this area. Reinstall the wheel, lubricate the studs, and torque it down correctly. When we reinstall the wheel, we'll find the studs, slide our wheel on, and reinstall the wheel nuts. Now, it's very important to note the configuration of these nuts. These particular ones are foolproof. They can't go on the wrong way. But if you have a conventional style wheel, the older style wheel, you'll notice that the hole goes straight through. The nut can go on this way or this way. There is only one correct way, and you must be very sure to install the tapered portion of the nut towards the wheel. And of course, we're going to torque these down to the proper specifications to make sure they can't come loose. Until next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 90.
Should you require further information, please feel free to approach any of our representatives on the floor. They'll be more than happy to help you. And brochures may be obtained from our Jeep Eagle Information Center. Again, we're glad you decided to spend part of your day here with us at the Toronto Auto Show. And Motoring 90 will be back in just a few moments.
Well, we're back with our Ferrari 328 GTS, and as I mentioned earlier, the price tag on this car is approximately $140,000. Now, if that's a little pricey for you, but you like that Ferrari feel, have I got a deal for you. Come on over here. Over here, we've got the 1990 La Forza, and with me is Paul Salonen of Caliber Motors in Toronto. And Paul, you tell me this has a lot in common with Ferrari. Why is that?
Well, it's built in the same assembly line as the Ferrari Testarossa and the Cadillac Alante. Engine's a Ford 302 cubic inches, 5-liter. Produces 185 horsepower and 270 foot-pounds of torque. This is claimed to be the most versatile luxury four-wheel drive in the world. The price tag on the vehicle is $66,750.
All right, and of course, people can check out this vehicle, of course, at auto shows that are going on throughout North America right now. But as our Sandra Neal is about to tell us, the cars are not the only stars at these particular shows.
We've got a bird's eye view as technicians and production crew are getting ready for the auto show. It's a few days before the big event, but here at the GM booth, plans are underway for their entertainment package. You know, General Motors is one of the few car companies that still has an entertainment package at the auto show, and they hire professionals to carefully plan and prepare this big extravaganza.
Still learning your lines?
We had some last-minute changes, so.
Yeah, I wanted to listen to see how cool it is.
The other one.
You all right on that line? Which? That last line where you come in, which you did take out that. Yeah. So you're fine there. When we finish this one, we're already talking about another show right now. We've already had about 5 meetings. This would take probably 6-7 months, rehearsal-wise, about 3 weeks, and with pre-recording and what have you. Yeah, I would say about a good 6-7 months. It's a lot of work. Are you guys ready back there?
Andy Body is well known in Canada for his choreography and fashion shows and television specials. So you'd think this show would be easy. But how do you design a dance about cars?
You want to see what happens with the vehicle. You have to use the vehicle. It is a prop, almost similar to any prop within a Broadway show or what have you. But it is a challenge because there's certain rules. Either you don't touch the car or you do touch the car. Keep away from the car.
You ain't seen. Good. GM class and GM power. GM style you can't forget. You ain't seen nothing. Yeah. Good. GM rules of 1990s. Everything you want you get. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Good kids. Very good.
You've seen the dress rehearsal of the show, but the full production is much more effective. And for the dancers, it involves 100 shows for 10 days. That's a lot of show times.
Yeah, it's pretty taxing being here, the idea of being here all day. And, you know, you get a lot of questions from people on the floor, too, and sometimes you're not equipped to answer these questions at all, you know. You're there doing the show and performing.
To necessarily know a lot about cars to be involved with these shows, or do you learn quickly?
I knew absolutely nothing about cars before I started, but it's amazing how much you pick up from year to year and how much you retain after when you're talking about the cars. And but like I said, you don't necessarily need to know that much about them when you start.
Oh, well, I came off of doing cats not too long ago, so it's easier on the stamina, but it's nice to have that close contact with the public again. It's not that dark theater where you can't actually focus on people, so that's a nice change. Get to mingle a bit.
You could be driving one this spring, and that's just one more reason why we told you at the beginning, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Is this considered a plum job for a performer?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not artistically. It's, when you set out to be a singer, you don't set out to be an industrial show star. But you do probably, once you get into it, enough of them in a year that it certainly rounds out your income so that you don't have to wait tables on the side and, the same thing that a lot of other people that don't get these jobs may have to do.
Toyota celebrated its 25th anniversary with a dance number at the auto show, but most automotive companies have eliminated their song and dance routines. Bill Blackwood says that's a mistake. He feels the public still wants showbiz.
No, I don't think it's outmoded at all. I think that we're just one of the few that still does that sort of thing. Other people try to, it just doesn't quite work for them.
Do you think the people come for the vehicles or the entertainment?
We hope they come for the vehicles. That's what we're trying to sell, not talent.
Good.
If you're a person who has to record mileage for business purposes, then you're familiar with this circus act. Now, thanks to Milog, your attention can turn back to the road. Milog is a computer hardwired into your car that records mileage when you can't. This nifty little device can handle 3 different business accounts and will print out a summary on demand or automatically at 11:59 every night. Milog can print daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually, and is recognized by Revenue Canada when it comes to tax time. Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
The Japanese car industry is going from strength to strength. Here at the Toronto International Automobile Show, the Car of the Year awards presented by the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada were dominated by the Japanese, with 5 of the 6 awards going to Japanese companies. The only domestic nameplate that got a look in was the Eagle Talon and the Plymouth Laser, and even that car was engineered by Mitsubishi, a Japanese company. Down the hall, Toyota's introducing their new Lexus cars, Nissan's got their new Infiniti cars, and these are both expensive Japanese cars that are tackling the European sports sedans head-on. The question is, what can the domestic car companies do to compete? Well, first of all, we've got to rethink our definition of domestic. Toyota and Honda both have factories here in Canada, as does Hyundai. Nissan also has factories in the United States. So some of the domestic industry, in fact, is owned by the Japanese. What about Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler? How are these people going to compete? Well, these are the people that keep talking about competition and free trade and level playing field. They're simply going to have to tackle these car companies with more style, more quality, and better value. Do they have a chance? Well, I think they do. You look at the sales statistics, and the #1 selling car for 4 years in Canada has been the Ford Tempo. Why? A lot of car for about $12,000, and that's the kind of thing that Canadian consumers want to see. As the Japanese cars get more and more expensive, the domestic models have to offer better value at lower prices. But the real challenge for the domestics is to come up with more style and more flair and more enthusiasm in their cars, because that's what people like me and like the Canadian consumer want to see. This is Jim Kenzie for Motoring 90.
Well, it all started out at a 50,000-watt television station years ago, and, well, here's the car again.
Baxter?
Me and Ted Baxter, yeah. So, anybody want to go for a ride? All right, well, look, I gotta go. It's the end of the program for this week, but we'll see you next week for more of Motoring 90. Okay, who's first?
I am.
All right,
Guy.
we'll be back.
Motoring 90 is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.